Its theme song may not have been a bop like Sonic Underground's, but this series about the dude who could really move with the attitude delivered on solid storytelling. With its epic second season and superb voice cast, no wonder this tale about the fastest thing alive still has a rabid fan base, and is a standout among Sonic properties. I'm Chris Carr, and today we're taking a nostalgia trip to Sonic the Hedgehog SatAM. Before we juice, I want to give a shout out to all of our donors on Patreon. Thanks to these freedom fighters, I'll get to watch every Hedgehog property known to man. If you want to chip in, head on over to our Patreon page and see if a donation tier works for you. We'll thank you with shout out, swag, and more. If donations aren't your thing, but you think graphic tees are way past cool, then click our affiliate link in the description to TeePublic. They have awesome merch that will make you look mondo good. On to the show.
Hang tight, Dale. We're using Warp 7!
Sonic the Hedgehog aired from 1993 to 1994 on ABC, and was meant to have a completely different tone and vibe than Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, a syndicated series that also premiered in September of '93. Adventures had more of a Benny Hill feel to it. It's wacky, whimsical, and very bright. Sonic the Hedgehog focused on darker plots, differing from the Sonic games of the time. To distinguish the two shows, which ran at the same time, fans usually call Sonic the Hedgehog Sonic SatAM, as the series was a Saturday morning staple, and Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog aired on weekdays in the States. The series, like other Sonic properties, takes place on the planet Mobius, sometime set in the 33rd century. Back in the day, the king of Mobius had a trusted minister of war named Julian. Things on Mobius were great though, so the king was going to get rid of the Minister of War title and turn Julian to the Minister of Science. All seemed good and well until Julian overthrew the king and started going by Dr. Robotnik. Robotnik would use Sir Charles Hedgehog's invention, the Roboticizer, to roboticize most of the creatures of Mobius, turning them into his slaves. Chuck's intention with this invention was to allow the elderly to live longer. Robotnik modified it to rid people of their free will. With the help of his assistant Snively and his army of robot soldiers known as SWAT bots, Robotnik ruled with an iron fist. Those who escaped Robotnik took refuge in the Great Forest, built a village named Knothole, and formed the rebel group known as the Freedom Fighters. The de facto leader of these rebels? The blue blur himself, Sonic the Hedgehog. Sonic is Chuck's nephew, and is working with other rebels to try to overthrow Robotnik. Even though our pilot episode alerts us that these rebels appear to be fighting a losing battle. They're outnumbered, outgunned, and Robotnik is already running things. Sonic's fellow freedom fighters include Tails, a little two-tailed fox who can twirl his tails to fly, Rotor the walrus, who is an expert mechanic and inventor, Antoine, a French coyote, although in French syndication he's a fox, who despite his scaredy-cat demeanor is a former palace guard, Bunny Rabbit, a partially roboticized rabbit that Sonic saved, Dulcie the dragon, and Princess Sally, the king's daughter, and the sole heir to the throne of Mobius. Sally always has Nicole with her, a sentient handheld computer. Oh, okay, this is a really cool fact about Nicole. Supposedly, the writers were going to reveal that Nicole was once a child of Mobius, like a living, breathing kid, and somehow was turned into this computer, probably a weird roboticizing experiment, and she eventually would get her body back and turn the Freedom Fighters in a more tangible form. The characters are voiced by VO royalty. Rob Paulson, who says Antoine is his favorite character of all time, Kreese Summers, Jim Cummings, Tim Curry, weirdly not playing a bad guy, Kath Soucie, and that's Kath's real voice.
Any year now, Sal.
You know, your unremitting perseverance is an example to us all, Sonic.
Say what?
A lot of times she plays Rugrats or little kids or moms, but here she's all real-life sultry. And if it sounds familiar, that's because Kath voiced Lola Bunny in Space Jam. Kath Soucie. Voicing all the female woodland creatures that gave you trouser feeling since 1993. While we're on the characters, a few of them get redesigns for the series. Sally, in what was supposed to be the pilot episode, is pink, sporting a ponytail, and she's a little rounder. The Sally we end up with has a much more svelte figure, and in season 2 was given a vest. A vest, because that helped her look less naked. I think just wearing shoes makes all of them look more naked. Like, they're all animals and it's fine, but when you put them in boots, it's like, ah, damn, where are the rest of their clothes? Got Antoine just Porky Pigging it. No bottoms in sight. No bottoms. Except Bunny, who wears a bustier. Which, fun fact, was a reference to Total Recall. There's a rebel who pretends to be a prostitute. Yeah, that influenced the design of a Saturday morning cartoon character.
Sometimes a metal body comes in handy. But I still have something a robot will never have. A mind and a heart of my own.
This series is a lot like Star Wars, honestly. A princess and her beau lead a group of rebels against an evil tyrant oppressing the people. Power rings give Sonic great power, like the Force. Kinda. They're droids. Someone's uncle kinda gets murdered. Follow me, people. It works! I'm gonna love with you. Okay, season 1, not so good. A few gems in there, but nothing really to write home about. I remember loving this show as a kid, so I was really disappointed with my rewatch for this video. But then we hit season 2, baby! And this Sonic series really comes into its own in season 2. The writers sprinkle all these little nuggets of through line throughout the sophomore season. There's almost no filler, which is rare for an animated show. Season 2 opens with the episode Game Guide. In this episode, we meet Ari, a fellow freedom fighter. Allegedly. Sally doesn't trust him, Sonic does, and wouldn't you know, Sally's right. This guy is shady. Turns out, Robotnik has blackmailed Ari into bringing Sonic to this trap, a giant pinball game of doom.
You wanna play, huh, Robotnik? Well, check this.
It's Running Man. It's Pinball Running Man. It's my second Schwarzenegger reference. That's probably too many, huh? Gotta find a third. We gotta do rules of 3. The episode introduces us to the Void, a strange dimension that seems to have no way out. Ari ultimately helps Sonic and gets lost to the Void doing so. Before he's lost, though, he tells Sonic that Sally needs to find her father's list of freedom fighters. This really sets up the change in writing for the season. We get an ending where things don't feel particularly hopeful. We see some real consequences, and we get the beginnings of an overarching plot, what with the Void and with Robotnik starting to mention something called Project Doomsday. Later, Sonic, Bunny, and Sally will end up in the Void and come face to face with Naugus, Robotnik's old boss. In the Void, we learn that the king was banished there by Robotnik, that neither he nor Naugus can leave the Void at this time, otherwise they'll die. And Sally gets that freedom fighter list. The rest of the season, the gang teams up with more freedom fighters. They come across these magical stones called Power Stones, which are a source of either limitless power or limitless destruction. Better figure that out, y'all. And they almost get the hang of de-roboticizing folks. They test this on Bunny and Sonic's Uncle Chuck. This is a particularly interesting storyline. We learn that the victims of robotization are completely aware of everything they do while under Robotnik's control.
But I thought when you were roboticized, you didn't...
Know what was going on? We know everything. We just can't do anything about it.
Taunting, right? Now, the effects of the de-robotization process aren't permanent. So Chuck reverts back to his old bot body, but Sonic is able to reach him and help his uncle restore his mind and free will. So Chuck goes back to Robotnik to work as a spy and feed the Resistance information. All of this builds to the satisfying conclusion that is the Season 2 finale, Doomsday. Robotnik launches the Doomsday Project, a massive fortress that manufactures and deploys war machines. When the Freedom Fighters and Sonic can't foil this nefarious plot, they have to use those Power Stones to tap into ultimate power. And on top of all that, Sonic and Sally smooch! Season 2 ended basically like when the Rebels beat the Empire in Return of the Jedi. There's fireworks and dancing with the little creatures. Might as well be the forest moon of Endor. I'm telling you, this is a Star War. A third season was planned, but unfortunately, the series was canceled. However, we get a cliffhanger when we learn that Snively, Robotnik's lackey, is still alive. And he's not alone. We see a pair of red glowing eyes and hear wheezing. This is obviously Naugus. And even though it was crazy obvious Naugus was going to be the bad guy of Season 3, fans debated whose eyes were in the background. Is it Knuckles? Metal Sonic? No. Sonic the Hedgehog writer Ben Hurst went on record saying the eyes did in fact belong to Naugus. He did say that if he had been able to continue the series, both Knuckles and Metal Sonic would have shown up. Probably why Knuckles made it into Sonic Underground. Hurst also said his plans for a third season would see Robotnik being tortured by Naugus, becoming his lackey, and Snively defecting to the Freedom Fighters, and the return of King Acorn. We'd also learn more about the origins of Robotnik and Snively, the only humans in the series, and see Sonic and Tails have a relationship more akin to what we've seen in the Sonic games. Even with limited airings and cancellation due to being up against Mighty Morphin Power Rangers in the 90s, this show boasts an incredibly loyal fan base to this day. And I can see why. I couldn't even pick out a favorite episode, y'all. And there's a time travel twofer. I'm a sucker for that stuff.
2 chili dogs.
With the works, pal.
Like, all of Season 2 is so freaking fun. I know, critics talk about how this hasn't aged well at all. And yeah, the animation and the slang do leave something to be desired.
No way, man. Ballads make me want to hurl. Ugh. Chunkage contained.
But the story is solid enough that revisiting the show was super fun. But hey, that's just one gal's opinion. What's really important here is, what do you think of Sonic the Hedgehog? Were you a diehard Sonic Sat AM fan? Does it hold up, or am I watching Sugar Hog with rose-colored glasses? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks again to Patreon, to TeePublic, and all y'all who stumbled upon us searching for Sonic. For more videos, you can click to the left. Thanks for watching. See you, Space Cowboy.